Hey everyone, Scott Davenport here. In this video, I'm talking about platypods. Now, platypods are these very versatile, low profile, quite lightweight, sturdy platforms for your camera. And they're very handy to have in places that you can't use a tripod or in situations you don't want to carry one around. I got introduced to these through the Photographers in Cars podcast. We use a platypod to support one of the cameras when we film that podcast. The Platypod guys took notice and they sent us the newest gear and said, try this stuff out, play around with it, let us know what you think, which we've done. And I've been using them since then and have several uses for them. They've become a very handy thing in my kit. And before I talk about the three different use cases that I've been using them for right now, let me give you a quick tour of what these things are. So there's two different models here. I got them both here. There's the Ultra and then there's the Max. So obviously they're bigger. One's bigger than the other. The Ultra, it also comes with a little pouch that's got these screw mounts. You get 4 of these screw mounts here. This is about the size of my palm, right? So this is pretty compact, incredibly sturdy. It's got loops on it so you can loop it onto a belt. And fundamentally, all you need is a single screw to get a tripod, right? This is point 1, point 2, point 3. You put that down and it is set. It is stable. And you've got a mount for a ball head. And so I've got a ball head from an old tripod I'm not using anymore. I'll throw this in my bag, connect this on, and a little spin there. Maybe more than a little. Now I've got a very small, very compact tripod that I can put down in a variety of spots and capture shots. Same idea for the Max. It's obviously a little bigger. The screws are conveniently in the base. There's this nice little magnetic lock, so as I get close there, it just snaps in and won't go anywhere. And you got the same types of mounts. They both have slots for straps, so if you wanted to latch this onto a fence post or something else and have something sitting on an angle and capture footage that way, you can do it. Very low shots as well. But they're incredibly handy, and they just slide right into the bag. I will say that as much as I like the size of the Max, let's get another look at that here. There we go. Sorry, the size of the Ultra. This is super compact. I'm comfortable using this with my lighter weight mirrorless camera, so my A6000. I'll even put my RX0 on here, a little action cam type sized thing, with smaller lenses, because this is just such a tiny platform. Compare this to my A7R2, with its mounting bracket and was this the 24-70, the 1635 lens. That's asking a lot for a small platform to hold. For a smaller mirrorless system, no problem at all. That's where the Max comes in. So get the Max on here, I've got a lot more room to work with. So that ball head sitting in there, something like this. I can even put my longer lenses on there, and this is nice and stable. The fact that the screws come out quickly and easily, this becomes just a very flat, small thing that slides into my bag. And they come with nice felt pouches too, so you're not going to scratch up or bang around on any of your other gear you might have in the bag. So those are what the platypods are. And now let me go through the 3 different things I've been using them for recently. All right, the first use case for me is for scouting trips. So this applies to any situation where you just don't want to carry your tripod around. I was recently in the Big Sur area, out all day long, from sunrise to sunset and Sundays, and just hiking all the time, looking for different types of spots and shots to get at golden hour. And sometimes I would leave the tripod in the car because, frankly, carrying my full tripod all the time started to just get heavy. And in one situation, I was in a creek area and the light was kind of filtering through the trees. The stream had enough motion in it to capture a nice smoother exposure. Even without filters, it was metering at like 0.8 seconds. I didn't have my tripod, but I had one of the platypods in my bag. Took that out, set it up on a rock in the creek, got my camera on it, and was able to capture some nice photos that I would not have been able to do handheld. And so you could extend this to cases where you're just going to be out all day in, let's just say, less than ideal light for landscapes, but you want that option of just in case you want to be able to do something that you can't just do handheld, throw one of the platypods in the bag and you're good to go. Another instance I'm using it is when you can't use a tripod, or at least in my particular case, in this instance I'm thinking of, it would have been really awkward for me to have used a tripod. So I was sitting in a restaurant, taking a break, and took a shot with my cell phone because I liked the way the interior looked. And I was looking at the phone going, wow, this might look kind of cool as an HDR. I'm a sucker for particular wood grain tone and a slight, orange type of cast of interior lights. I think that looks really cool in HDR. Well, I wasn't going to break out my ginormous tripod in order to set up and take a set of brackets. So instead, I took out the Platypod, set it up on the corner of the table in the restaurant, just got the camera on there, pop, 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 got my brackets, and that worked out really well. And so it was inconspicuous. It was not making a show out of me taking this type of photo. And extend that to locations where you can't have a tripod. A lot of museums or interiors of buildings. I'm thinking like churches and cathedrals in Europe. But if you have one of these in your bag, it's so low profile, you could just set it up on a ledge, a windowsill, a shelf, something like that, and go ahead and grab your shots. A third use case for me is video. I'm capturing B-roll, behind-the-scenes footage, or doing on-location interviews to talk about what I'm doing with the camera, why I'm shooting something, or why I'm composing a certain way. And I'm carrying a second tripod to do a lot of that. And now I'm incorporating the Platypods into the mix as well. It gives me options for multiple camera angles. It just capture more of the surrounding area to give a better feel for a location overall. And it's nice to have these options, and they just do not take much space at all in the bag. So that's the Platypod. I find it to be very useful, and I continue to find additional ways to use them. And I think I might even start using them in the studio, depending on the type of video that I need to do. If I need to film something that's close up on my hands, that gives me a quick way to set up a stable camera to film that type of work. I'm not giving up my main tripod anytime soon. That will continue to be a mainstay in my landscape photography. But the Platypods have a role. They're very useful, and I will continue to use them and find ways to incorporate them into my photography. Well, I hope you found this useful and educational if you didn't know about Platypods before. And if you got questions about them, go ahead and ask me. I'm happy to answer anything that I can for you. And until next time, my name is Scott Davenport, and happy shooting.